What's up, Twitch and YouTube? It's Murphy D55 coming to you with episode 20 of the Northern. I'm here running it back with my guy, Big Kep. We had a panel last week. It was me, him, and King Cove breaking down the wildcard weekend, which we will talk about to start off the podcast today. But we're also going to get into breaking down all of the matchups in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs here. So first and foremost, Kep, thank you again for making another appearance on the Northern, buying up more and more equity in whatever this is worth when it's all said and done. You're solidifying a spot here. If I ever get like an offer from ESPN to put this thing on there, you're gonna be coming with me, man. I'm taking you to Hollywood.
We could put First Take to shame. I don't have to sleep with nobody to get the job.
There you go, man. That's a whole podcast in its own right. I only just started hearing about that story. That's kind of crazy, but hey, we knew nepotism was a thing. It's permeating every industry, I'm sure. But man, first thing I wanted to ask you about before we even get into the topics today, you had a pretty cool experience last week. You mentioned that you're going to be going to the Eagles game this past weekend. So tell us a little bit about, is this new merch that you're rocking right now? I don't think I've seen you wearing this hat before. Is this stuff that you picked up at the game?
No, yeah, the hat's new. The jacket's not. The jacket I got last year, I believe. This is one of my favorite jackets. I did go downtown into Southern City, Philadelphia, hit up the Mitchell and Ness store. Probably the
Nice.
best store on the planet. I probably could have spent all day in there and spent way more money than I did. Thank goodness for a military discount, or they would have got me for close to $600.
No
And
shot.
instead it was like 368 or something, close to $400.
Yeah. You
Um,
still dropped a bag, but is that a thing that
yeah.
they have just at the Mitchell Ness store? Or is that like every business gives a veterans discount? I didn't know that was a thing.
If you ask, most stores won't tell you, but if you ask, then yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, that's awesome,
Uh,
man. And I tell Chad a little bit about the connection because I'm sure some of the people that are gonna be in here today don't know about how you got these tickets and your connection. So who's the player who hooked you up with the seats for the game?
so I have had somebody watching me since he was a freshman in high school. Watched him all through high school. You know, IRL buddies more or less. He would come to me about life stuff, and he was basically like a son. He was basically like a son. A son. I have a lot of Twitch sons. I don't know why.
Yeah, no kidding. Papa Cap.
He was one that would always come to me, and I'd play him in Madden. I'd hear his little brother in the background yelling at him, his mom, his grandma. Like I knew pretty much knew the whole family. He's a really
Yeah.
good kid. But he ended up going to Georgia State University, getting a ride to Georgia State University to play offensive lineman. Kid just kept growing and growing and growing. He's like, Kep, I don't know. I was like, just
Hmm.
stick with it, man. Just stick with it. See what happens. Got to be a senior year in college. He was a little dejected that he didn't get invited to the combine, but he kept working and working and working, and he ended up getting drafted in the 6th round in April by the Green Bay Packers. And when I heard his name
Nice.
called, it was like my own son was drafted because I had known him for so long. But
That's
I
incredible.
mean, you couldn't tell that he was a big time athlete. You couldn't tell that he's just a humble kid, just a really good kid. But he ended up hitting me up and he's like, "Hey, Cap," because I was originally supposed to go with a friend of mine who's a Packers
Yeah.
fan. He was going to drive down here from Wisconsin, and then we were going to drive to Philly, but things fell through. He had to do something with his kids. I was like, "No big deal, whatever." But then Travis hit me up. He's like, "Hey, Cap, I can get 2 tickets," and he's like, "I'll get you there. No worries.
That's awesome.
Don't worry about it. Just if you can swing it, if you can get somebody to watch the dogs." He's like, "I'll get you there. No worries. Don't worry about it." I was like, "All right." So I
Oh
made
man.
the arrangements, and he hit me up. And he's like, "Here's the tickets." I had to, accept the, transfer the tickets. And he's like, "Look at flights, look at hotels." I'm like, "Damn." I was like,
Yeah.
"Damn, bro."
That's crazy, man.
But
Yeah, I'm
Travis,
sure playoff weekend too. Like when there's a playoff game in town, I'm sure everything's like marked up as well. Like,
well, yeah, I hadn't been home since the NFC Championship game against the Niners. That's the last time I was back home. So
yeah,
I had originally tried to take my oldest son. My oldest son's got some things going on. His mom wouldn't let him.
yeah,
So, and then I was like, you know what? And my oldest son's never been to an Eagles game either. So I was like, you know
yeah,
what? It probably might be a little bit, but I'm gonna take my youngest son, who's 8. He'll be 9 in April, and
yeah.
he's never been to Philadelphia. He's never been on a plane. He's never been to an Eagles game.
Wow,
So
a
this
lot of
was the perfect
firsts.
opportunity. But Travis Glover, I love you, bro. He's like I said, he's like a son to me. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I've got some of his college merch. He's supposed to send me a game worn signed jersey so I can frame it because I ain't wearing no damn
yeah,
Packers jersey.
yeah. No
But
kidding.
but we
Hang it
had a
up on the
blast,
wall
man.
out of
Betting for
yeah.
Met him for dinner Saturday night. Met him after the game. Razzed him a little bit because he actually ended up getting in the game because their
Yeah.
Elgin Jenkins got hurt, so he ended up getting in the game. And he
Wow.
was called for a couple penalties. So every time I heard number 79, whatever, I was like, oh. And then people in my section behind me were starting to talk trash about him. I was like, I turned around, I was like, yo, I was like, I'm here because of number 79. Let him live. That's my boy. Let him live.
Yeah. Hey man, that's yeah, with friends like you in the crowd, man. He's well represented, but that's a really cool experience, and man, it's really interesting. It just shows the reach that you have, like the people that Twitch is such a vast place. You've been doing it for a long time. You have a big community. It's just crazy to kind of see all the connections that could be made. Especially like going back to COVID and pre-COVID when nobody was really out there, being in touch with anyone. That this platform can be a way to kind of really make IRL friendships, beyond just random 12-year-olds yelling at you on a mic, calling you an idiot as they run RPOs against you. So,
Yeah,
pretty cool story.
I know me personally, I have this stigma about me, but people don't know. If you don't know me, you don't know me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if you only see the nasty clips on Twitter, or you only come in to see me raging. Like I'm more than just raging at Madden, man. I've been doing this. Next month will be 9 years. I've been doing this. So, but
wow,
like you said, I built a big community, but I have more than just fans and viewers. I consider everybody a friend. So if, like I said, if
100%.
you don't know me, you don't know me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully people get a chance to know you over the course of this podcast here. We've done the full sit down. If you want to know more about Kep, go check my YouTube channel and watch the episode of Around the Yellowhorn, and you'll get a little insight into his whole backstory. But most of you guys, he's part of the furniture around here. You guys know him well. The other thing I wanted to ask, like, what's the atmosphere like at Philly wildcard weekend? Probably at the beginning of the season, maybe hoping for a first round bye. How electric was the stadium? Um,
There's no better sports atmosphere in the world, even when it's not playoff time. And I'm not even being. I mean, I probably am being a little biased, but just the proximity of all three stadiums, all in one parking lot, and Xfinity Live's right there, and you got neighborhoods right there. I mean, you got so many neighborhoods within walking distance of the stadium. It's kind of like a Lambeau atmosphere if you've ever been to
yeah,
Lambeau.
I haven't. No.
But I mean, just the electricity, it's more than just sports to Philadelphia fans,
Yeah.
especially in and around Philadelphia. Now, you got guys from all over the country people just don't understand Philadelphia sports if you're not from there. If you're not from the tri-state area, Delaware, South Jersey, around Philadelphia. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up about 45 minutes northwest of Philly in a city called Reading, which we just
Yeah.
called Little Philly because it's basically Little Philly. But the atmosphere is unreal. Having my 8-year-old there, the dopest thing about the experience, and I'm sorry, I'm probably rambling, but the
No,
dopest thing
please
about
do.
this experience is I met up with Fourth and John, which is a huge media Eagles content creation group. They've been doing
Yeah.
it forever. But I know those guys, and I went to that tailgate, and they knew I was coming. And when I got there, they come over to me. One of them come over to me, and I told them that it was my son's first game. So they had me do this like little Simba thing, where you hold Simba
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Pride Rock.
Yeah.
So they played the Rocky song, and I was holding Baby Kept up, and everybody was
That's
doing the
awesome.
Eagles chant and stuff. I hope they posted on the
That's
website or on their
incredible.
socials, because it was one of the dopest experiences, top 3 dopest experiences of my
Yeah.
life, having him there and in that atmosphere, and him seeing what it's about. Like, he'll remember it. Like,
Yeah.
my first game with my dad was about his age. Now, my dad
Yeah.
got arrested at that game, so that's how I remember it.
Well, there you go.
But
There's one way to remember it.
but,
Yeah.
but yeah, the atmosphere, man, it was cold, and I thought, my little 8-year-old was gonna just completely complain about the cold. He maybe said it
Yeah.
once or twice, but once he was inside that stadium, I've never seen an 8-year-old get emotional over a national anthem. He was so
Yeah.
locked in on the national anthem when the Eagle came out and flew down to the. He was locked in. I wish I wouldn't have turned my. I was trying to save my battery,
Yeah.
and I recorded the introductions, the team into the player introductions, and I turned the phone off and completely. I didn't know the national anthem was going to be as good as it was.
Yeah. Who
Especially
did it?
his
Was it
reaction to it.
anybody that we would know, or was it just a local person doing it or something?
No, it was just a local guy that was playing. He played the saxophone. But if you didn't
Nice.
see it, if you didn't see it, go on YouTube
Yeah.
and Google the Eagles Packers national anthem, and just like I watched it today and it gave me chills.
Yeah. I
So
mean it
it
does
was
it does it's just like having a stadium of, I don't know what the capacity is in Philly, but you're having tens of thousands of people that are ready to scream their heads off and get hostile and stuff, and just to have everybody stand in silence is powerful enough. And then
I'm
you
getting
guys have
chills
it.
just thinking about it now. Like
Yeah,
the crowd started singing. The crowds because
yeah,
there was no lyrics. It was just a
yeah,
saxophone. The crowd started singing all together.
yeah.
Like it was it was really good.
I'm just thinking here, you think of how well people kind of come together for sporting events and stuff. If the rest of the world could find a way to channel that energy that fans have in supporting their team, and coming together, people from all kinds of diverse backgrounds and whatnot, it's a pretty powerful thing. Like, sport is a powerful thing. This is what I try to tell
Well,
Jess whenever we're trying to watch a sports documentary. I say, this is beyond sports, this is something that anybody could be interested in.
it was kind of marred by a Green Bay Packers content creator who decided to go in there with a full body cam and I guess record everything. But apparently he only
Yeah.
shared a snippet of an Eagles fan calling his wife some nasty words. But we're all kind of thinking that it was provoked because
Oh, yeah.
an Eagles fan of that age and would not say some stuff to somebody unprovoked. So it come to
Yeah.
find out that this dude, this Packers creator, had a GoFundMe to get there, and there was all kinds of stuff in the GoFundMe about I've been in the belly of the beast before, and I'll do it again, and this, that, and the third. And they found his GoFundMe. They found some old tweets of him being homophobic and stuff. So
Yeah.
lo and behold, the Packers fan's a scumbag too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but
It's crazy.
once again, all Eagles fans are this, that, and the other. Like,
Yeah. Oh, there's been so much of that. Even going back to week 18, there were like, a bunch of I mean, who knows? I didn't even look into it. I don't care. But like, fan environments are gonna be hostile regardless. But there was talk about, oh yeah, the Lions fans are scumbags 'cause they were mistreating the Vikings players' families that were in the crowd or whatever. But I mean, a lot of the
every fan base has a subset of asshole fans.
yeah, just like every
Not just
city
the
has groups of bad people. Like there's no cities are made up of people, and people are good or people are bad, and there's you can't really slap a label on it like that. Like people. I think of Toronto as being a pretty nice city to be in, but when I take the streetcar into work, the people that I'm sitting with and bumping elbows with, there's some miserable people on there too that you wouldn't want to cross paths with. So it's yeah, the blanket statement I think is kind of stupid. And again, social media is all based on getting people fired up so that they'll click on stuff and post on it. And that's kind of the sad nature of sports journalism these days, is just getting reactionary stuff out there and getting it out there quick. And then you look at streaming and content creation in general. These IRL people, it's all about stirring the pot, walking into malls and
Yep.
bumping shoulders with people. It's kind of gross, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, but I'm glad you had a great experience. It sounds like it was something that Baby Cap's gonna remember for a long time. Really glad you got to have that moment. And first time being back in Philly too, like to be hoisted up to the Rocky song and all that. Like that's pretty powerful stuff, man. So really, really
Yeah,
happy for you.
he's gonna remember it for the rest of his life for sure.
Oh, absolutely, man. And before we get into this week's matchups, I thought we could do a little quick recap here. Maybe we'll start off with you because you were actually at the Philly game. So talk about wildcard weekend, maybe from the Eagles' perspective. How did it go for you guys? And then I'll give my take on how the Vikings performed this week.
I mean, obviously it went well. We won. Um, I think the offense was a little stagnant. You know, AJ Brown was dealing with a knee thing, so he only had one catch for 10 yards. He didn't have that many targets. But I think it was more Green Bay's defensive game plan. Green Bay's defensive game plan was to take away, all the short and intermediate stuff. They weren't, I don't. We only took one shot down the field on a fake tush push on 3rd and inches to AJ Brown, and then because we knew darn well we were going for it on 4th and getting it anyway.
Yeah,
But defensively, Green Bay had a good game plan, even though they were without Jair Alexander. They did get Elvin Williams back. They had Quay Walker back. Quay Walker and Edgar and Cooper. If they can keep those two are going to be all pro linebackers. Those two are
yeah,
disgustingly good. Like even when Saquon would have a hole and he'd hit it, you'd see Edward and Cooper just fly across the field, or Quay Walker just fly across the field and make a tackle.
yeah,
They had a really good defensive game plan, but our defense was just way better than theirs. I mean, we had I think 4 turnovers. There was 3 interceptions. Obviously, the one was like a Hail Mary at the end of the
yeah,
game. Not really a Hail Mary, but just a shot, downfield.
yeah,
But to open the game with that big hit and the fumble, that just set the tone. And
yeah,
then we score off of that, and Jalen Hurts was 13 of 21 for 100 and some yards and 2
yeah,
touchdowns. And then, obviously Jordan Love is Jordan Love, but it was a good game. It was a lot closer than it was like 22-10 was the final
yeah,
score. But Green Bay had a good defensive game plan. Their offense, had one good drive, but our defense, we have the defense to win the Super Bowl. We just got to score some points.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody says, and I knew I was going to see it afterwards. Oh, Jalen Hurts this, Jalen Hurts that. Look, the dude made plays when he had to. He ran for some yards when he had to. He picked up first downs when he had to. He made throws when he had to, and he did not turn the football over. He was not trying to do too much. He was playing within the offense. Hand the ball to Saquon Barkley. Throw your short and intermediate open routes. Get some yards when you can. Get some points when you can, and we won the football game. That's how they've been winning games all year long. Why change it now? It's the playoffs.
Exactly.
Why change it?
Well, that's
And
probably exactly the recipe. Like, if you can have him, passing for 150 yards and being efficient, I'm sure fans and fantasy pundits will want to see him put
yeah,
up 350 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air. But realistically, you got a great elite defensive team. You got one of the best running backs in the game. So controlling the clock
exactly.
and pounding it out is probably the exact thing that Sirianni wants to do through the entire playoffs. And then hopefully, if you do get in a game where that's not working, then Hurts can step up, like he did on the route to your last Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah, and he's capable of it. When he's had to step up and throw the ball more than he normally does, he's able to do that. It's not like he's
Yeah,
not capable of doing it. He is very capable of doing it. He's very capable of taking what the defense gives him and playing within himself. He's not trying to do too much anymore. He's not trying to play hero ball. He's doing exactly what he knows he has to do to get what's most important. That's a win. The hell with stats. And that's why I don't play fantasy football anymore. I don't do
yeah,
parlays. I don't do any of that stuff. I just want to enjoy the game of football and forget all the stuff outside of it with gambling and sports books
yeah,
and fantasy football. Like I haven't played fantasy football since 2010 was the last time I played it.
yeah,
So and you said it, fantasy football and sports booking has ruined fandom. It's ruined fandom.
yeah. It's
So
true. Somebody came in my
I'm
chat
able to
asking,
enjoy the
yeah,
game, and that's it.
yeah, for sure. It's I mean, that's every sport in general. It's yeah, people are passionate about it, but I will say, I'd say 90% of my friends probably do daily fantasy, and 100% of them are winning money though. So that's the good thing about it. Nobody ever talks about the being down money and being hooked on this thing. It's like
People were
everybody's
real
winning every
upset.
bet. Yeah.
People were real upset when Saquon broke that run in the fourth quarter and decided to slide down and didn't get his anytime
Oh yeah,
touchdown.
I remember Maurice Jones-Drew had a similar situation. Great play, sealed the win. But yeah, it took a knee at the 1 yard line, and again, fantasy owners had to be salty about it. But hey, that's football, man. You got to play for the franchise that's paying your salary, not for the guys sitting in their mom's basement trying to snap together a parlay at the last second. I'll talk a little bit about the Vikings game. I don't know. Did you get a chance to watch any of it, or were you still kind of recovering from the
I did
weekend?
watch some of it, but I was so exhausted, bro. As
Oh
soon
yeah, I
as I
bet.
sank into my couch, and I probably watched maybe 20 minutes of it, and they were getting their asses kicked.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even finish the game, honestly, and it takes me back to the last time the Vikings met with Philly in the playoffs after we had the Minneapolis Miracle. We went to Philly and I turned the game off at halftime because it was so clear that we weren't in that game. It wasn't like, okay, we come out strong in the second half, and like it was like, okay, if we score on the first, we got the ball at half. If we score on the first possession, we're in it, and it was like a 3-and-out, and I was like, okay, we're toast, we're done. We don't have it today. Darnold was Darnold's been getting a lot of slander, and I do hate to see that people are talking about him potentially playing himself out of 50 $100 million worth of salary. And I do agree, if people had been able to sign him after week 17, he would have been locking up a monster deal for some team like the Raiders or the Giants, or he was looking like the real deal, not a top 5 quarterback, but for sure a top 10 quarterback the way he performed this year. Um, there's Sticky in the chat saying F Darnold, another Vikings fan. So that's pretty much the consensus. But I think his performance in Week 18 and the wild card game doesn't erase the fact that he had 14 really good games that he won. I still think he's a viable starting option. Maybe not on a team that wants to win a playoff game or compete for the championship, but I'd say definitely he's going to be in the league for a long time with what he's proven this year. He'd for sure be the best backup quarterback if he does find himself in that situation going forward.
I think
Somebody's
with the right situation, but I don't think he's a starter. You look at, I mean, the Vikings. I mean, the Rams had 9 sacks, and like four
Yeah,
or five of them were on Darnold. But
yeah,
if you have Justin Jefferson, you have Jordan Addison, you have T.J. Hawkinson, you have a decent running game. I think that's the type of cast that he needs
oh yeah. He had a great
to
he had a
to
great
thrive. He's not
assortment of
going to go to the
weapons.
Raiders or to the Browns or to these other offensive teams with nothing there to
Yeah,
help him and thrive. He's just not.
he's not going to be a guy to go in and turn a franchise around. He's going to be a guy who
Yeah.
can be a good placeholder if you don't have draft picks high enough to get a good young quarterback. He'd be a great bridge quarterback for somebody. Like he actually did the perfect job of what he was supposed to do, which was bridge the gap until JJ McCarthy's ready to perform. Like it
Yep.
was honestly he performed that role perfectly. We never expected to be in the playoffs, let alone win a playoff game. And obviously, once you start believing as the season goes on, it hurts to be knocked out in such a dominant fashion. But you know, I said it during the last podcast. The Rams were a tough matchup for us. They beat us in the regular season. Only two teams beat us this past year. The Rams beat us twice, and the Lions beat us twice. And I think their team matched up really well. Like that guy Verse, who was picked high in the first round for the Rams, that edge rusher, he's
Sure.
insane. He had a fumble
Yeah.
six in that game, took one to the house early on. Again, Darnold made some boneheaded play where he was just standing upright in the pocket and didn't get the ball out of his hands. There were some calls that went the other way. I saw that I don't know that forward pass if you saw from Stafford where he was literally folded in half like a pretzel and just kind of flicked
That
his
was a
wrist.
fumble.
That was a touchdown, right? They got called back, but
Yeah.
you look at it, even that touchdown, it might have changed the momentum at that point in the game and tied it back up. But our offense was not working, so I mean, you can only rely on so many defensive touchdowns. You're not going to put up 30 points with defensive touchdowns in a game, and Darnold was holding on to the ball way too long, looked super uncomfortable. The interior O line was just, it's like fire all those guys. It's been the case in Minnesota for the last 10 years. Uh, Bradbury at center, he's got to go. Ingram and all these other guys, Reisner, like they're not answers. Like we're really good on the edge, and then we're really awful up the middle. So I think with the Vikings going into next season, I think we have like $70 million in cap space. We're like top six in cap space. There's no excuse to not go out and try to go out and actually. We don't have a lot of draft picks. We got to go out there and sign top end talent in the interior O line and protect JJ McCarthy when he comes in. And I'm saying JJ McCarthy because I do think Darnold's going to move on and take the best offer elsewhere at this point. But I
Yeah.
wish him all the best. I got no ill will towards Sam Darnold. I was such a big hater of his this season. I'll be rooting for him now wherever he goes. This might have been the perfect storm for him to have a really good season. Didn't end up the way he wanted to, but it was an exciting year and just a really, really awful end of the year. I do think the Rams, you guys are facing them next week with Philly, and we'll get into that matchup as we go. But I do think that could be a sneaky matchup for you guys. I think they're a veteran team, and veteran teams in the playoffs are always, you don't want to kind of overlook them and move on to the next week. But we'll save that for when we get to that topic. Um, I want to start off with the AFC matchups first here. So getting into the divisional round here, I think this might be the best game on paper here. Ravens versus Bills. I consider both these teams to be elite teams. I think the Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs are all pretty elite when you look at their talent that they have and the records that they put together this year. Give me your take on this game and who you think wins.
I mean, obviously, this is a matchup between the two people who I think most people consider the MVP, whether it be Lamar or Josh Allen. I
Yeah,
don't know. You can flip a coin. I think you can flip a coin in either one. I'm not into individual rewards or individual awards.
yeah,
So, but I think the Bills win this game. It's in Buffalo. I mean, I know Lamar's used to playing in some weather, but I just think the Bills are a much better team offensively.
yeah,
Then again, I mean again, this is one of those games where I would not be shocked if the Ravens went up there and won. Just
yeah.
hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. The Bills defense is still banged up. I mean, they handled the Broncos. So,
Yeah, they did. That was the one game
um,
that I was able to watch the whole thing, and it was not really a close game at all at any point.
so I think the Bills win the game, but I would not be surprised if the Ravens went up there and won. I mean, they
Yeah,
obviously they have the talent on both sides of the ball. But this could be a shootout. This could be one of those shootout games, where
yeah,
it's, in the I don't know what the over under is, but you could have both of these teams scoring well into the 30s,
yeah,
and it being like a 35-30, 35-32, 38-35, somewhere in there, somewhere in that range. But then again, I don't know the weather report. I haven't looked at the weather report, see if there's going to be snow, if it's going to, it's going to be
yeah.
cold. It's going to be cold as hell
100%.
up in Buffalo in mid-January. So,
Definitely.
but it's going to be a really good game. It's probably the best game of the weekend.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so too.
but this is definitely must see TV. Lamar versus Josh Allen, definitely must see TV. But I'll pick the Bills to win, but I would not be shocked if the Ravens won.
Yeah, and these are probably as a guy who's not really has no horse in this race anymore with the Vikings being out. I'd be okay with either of these teams going all the way and winning one. Like the Ravens, I used to love those early 2000s Ravens defenses with Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. Like that was I'm not a guy who has a second team. Once the Vikings are out, I'm done. But back when I was a teenager, I was like, a lot of my favorite players were on that Ravens defense, so I have a little soft spot for them. I wouldn't mind the Ravens going all the way and making a run because I feel like Lamar gets a lot of undue hate because he doesn't have a championship, mostly from idiots who still trying to call him a running back, even though he was by far the best passer in the league this past year. And the Bills fans, obviously, that's the team that really I probably should be a Bills fan. That's like an hour and a half down the road from Toronto. It's not a far trek. I was thinking we were getting snow in Toronto today, so it kind of feels snowy. I don't know. Canadians have this sense of like it just feels like it's going to dump snow, and if it's snowing here, it's probably going to be snowing 10 times harder in Buffalo with that lake effect stuff. So I would
Yeah.
love to see a snow game. I think snow games for television is just great. Like this time of
Yeah.
year, like sitting at home, nice and cozy, and then seeing these like gladiators go out there and just not like zero visibility. I think that's like the best for playoff football. It also means if it's a snow game, so much random stuff will happen. Ball control, balls will pop out. I'm hoping for like a snowmageddon type game. If I had to pick a team to win, I'd probably pick the Bills because the Bills are kind of feeling like in the AFC a bit like a team of destiny this year. They've beaten really good opponents this year so far. But at the same time, I think their head-to-head record. I think Lamar and Josh Allen have played each other 3 times in their career, and I think Lamar's won 2 of those games. So like he's had success beating the Bills in the past. So again, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised with either of these teams winning, but I'm going to give the edge to the Bills being at home in that frozen tundra type weather. But definitely, this is the game of the week that like I feel like is going to be the best one. Definitely going to
I
tune
feel
into this
whoever
one.
wins this game goes to the Super Bowl because
Yeah.
I have the Chiefs' luck's got to run out at some point.
I would think so. I would kind of love for the Chiefs to get bounced in the first round by, I wouldn't mind seeing that because I feel like if it ends up being like Bills, Chiefs again, there's just so much of a monkey on their back. Having
Yeah.
almost beat them that one year and seeming like they're about to get over the hump and then they just can't. It's like the Raptors trying to get past LeBron. We couldn't do it all those years with DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. We didn't finally figure it out until LeBron wasn't there anymore, and then we finally won our championship. So I kind of see the parallels there. Sinatra says he's so sick of the Chiefs. I mean, yeah, we all have heard enough of the Chiefs, man. They're media darlings, and then factor in Taylor Swift, and it's like it's game over. It's all we read about now. Um, but we'll move on to the next matchup here, and speaking of the Chiefs, it's Texans Chiefs here. So one of the best young QBs in the game in Stroud, a dinged up team, like dinged up offense, a lot of his receivers out, but they were able to win their first game despite the injuries. And then we have the dynasty, the Chiefs. They are a dynasty in my opinion. I like they're good. They're
Yeah.
like they're like the Patriots, like with Tom Brady. And not obviously Tom won 7 Super Bowl rings. I'm not saying they're gonna get there, but what are your thoughts on this game, Cap?
I don't think this game's going to be close. I think the Chiefs run away with this easy. And just for the Chiefs to put a stamp like, hey, yeah, we're the number 1 seed. We're still here. We're not going nowhere. Um, and I wouldn't be shocked if they represented the AFC in the Super Bowl again. They're a
Yeah,
well coached team. They're young in some spots, but they're for the most part they're a veteran team. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid just always find a way to get it done, and the defense always plays just good enough to make a run and play in the Super Bowl.
yeah,
Now they're dinged up a little bit too. They're young on defense in the back end, at the corner spots, but their corners are playing good. I just don't think the Texans have anything for the Chiefs other than Nico Collins.
yeah.
And the Texans, who'd they beat in the first round? I forget.
Texans beat the Chargers in the first
Yeah, the
round.
Chargers.
Yeah,
The Chargers stink. Chargers
yeah.
stink. I don't care what nobody says; they stink. But
Shots fired at
I
Harbaugh.
don't think the Texans have anything for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs blow them out.
Yeah,
And it's just like, hey, we're still here. We're not going nowhere. We're going to be right here. And I don't hate the Chiefs nowhere near as much as I hated the Patriots. And that's probably
yeah,
because of Travis Kelsey and him being the
yeah,
brother of Jason Kelsey. I don't mind the Taylor Swift stuff. I think that's so
yeah,
stupid for grown men to be upset about
yeah.
them
It's the
showing a
it's the
pretty
incel
female on the
types. Yeah,
TV.
yeah,
And like it's just I think it's just dumb for people to be upset about that type of stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't see the Texans having a shot in hell at beating the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think this one too is going to be Chiefs all the way. I wouldn't be opposed to Stroud stepping up and having an incredible game and throwing himself in the conversation for top QBs in the league. But I do think the Chiefs' experience and the veteran group that they have and the superior. Well, I was gonna say superior coaching, but like Reed's an all-time great coach at this point. He's really established himself. Whereas the Texans have a great young coach. Who just is only in his second season. He's more of a defensive guy too. So yeah, I'd say Chiefs win this round for sure. And then get another chance to be in the conference championship game. How many years in a row have the Chiefs been in the conference championship game? I feel like it's been
I've
a
lost count.
long time. Yeah, it's crazy, man. And yeah, Arrowhead is a huge home field advantage as well. I think it's always ranked in like the top two hardest places to play. They say Seattle is still in the top like three toughest places to play, but honestly, when your team's like 500, I don't really know how you can say the home field advantage there is as great as it used to be during the Legion of Boom era. On to the next one, Kev. This one's one that's near and dear to you. We got the Rams Eagles here. I got to see that the Rams now are not the Rams from the first 5 weeks of the season. They're definitely like most veteran teams. The regular season is essentially just a chance to get into the playoffs, and then the real season starts. Now these guys have some people remaining from their Super Bowl championship winning team. Stafford's still around with maybe just enough juice to make things interesting. They got two of the best receivers. I mean, you guys have great receivers over in Philly, but I do think Puka's incredible. Not super highly touted coming out of college, but like he's incredible and he's tough too. Like he catches the ball and he moves the pile too when he's getting tackled. Like he's a tough dude. Cooper Kupp I think only had like one target in the first half, but he's still a good route runner and a good crafty veteran. He's got a really good chemistry with Stafford, a really good safety blanket. What are your thoughts on this game? I'm guessing you think the Eagles win here, but I want to know why. Why do you think the Eagles win this game?
Yeah, I think we win the game. It's all going to come down to the Rams' front four and then being able to get after Hurts. If they get after Hurts like they got after Darnold, I mean, obviously Hurts is a little more mobile.
Yeah,
And he has, we do have an array of weapons. We have the best running back in the league. Last time when we played them, when that was the first time Saquon went over 200 yards in his career. Like he
yeah,
just ran all over them. And we
yeah,
pretty much locked up Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I think Puka Nacua, I think he was just coming back from injury, so he's been back a while. So
yeah,
we don't have to worry about any of that. Um,
yeah. He missed like the first 4 weeks of the season. I remember he was just back from injury as well when he played the Vikings
yeah.
too. So
So if I don't think our defense is gonna have any problem containing them. And plus, Stafford don't like cold weather. Does not like
yeah,
cold weather. He's a pretty boy. He's
he's a
always
California boy.
he's always been in a dome his whole
Yeah,
career.
yeah,
So and they are a much better offense when they're indoors and they're on a fast track. It's not going to be a fast track on Sunday. It's going to be cold. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be windy.
yeah,
And I don't think we're going to allow their offense to get going. And like I said, as long as our offense runs the ball, Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over, does what he's supposed to, I don't think there's any way the Rams win this game unless they really defensively up front can get after us in the pass game. But I don't foresee us throwing the ball much. I think we're going to run the ball right down their throat, and they're probably going to be prepared for it. They might be prepared for it, but you're not going to be able to stack the box with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. It's not Kenny
yeah,
Pickett, it's not
yeah,
Tanner McKee, it's Jalen Hurts. You're not going to be able to stack the box. And if you do, you're just going to get a heavy dose of RPO and outside runs and screens. And I think they're going to be prepared. Now, Green Bay laid the blueprint for a defensive game plan, but we'll
yeah,
see how that works for them. I just don't see them. I don't see them putting up the numbers they did against the Vikings offensively.
yeah.
I just don't think there's no way.
Yeah, well, the Rams defense looked incredible. It was a mixture of Darnold coming in not being sharp and being clearly like seeing ghosts again, but at the same time, like they stopped the run. Like we couldn't get anything going against them. I think Cam Akers broke off one 20-yard run in garbage time against them, but really they shut down the run very well. And their pressure they got was great, but you guys have a much better offensive line than the
Yeah,
Vikings
we
had
have an
too.
all-world offensive line, and Cam Akers is not Saquon Barkley.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you guys, at least the guys that you have in the box, maybe some people might say, okay, yeah, the Vikings have maybe a slight edge in wide receiver talent. But the guys that you have like in the trenches, much better. And hopefully if you can control the pace of the game, stay
Well,
to,
we did lose N'Kobe Dean, which it's gonna hurt. So
yeah,
hopefully Oren Burks and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can step in. And I was hoping they'd sign a veteran a veteran linebacker. I know Quan Alexander is on the Lions practice squad, so we could. I saw ramblings of us signing. I wish we'd sign a veteran linebacker just in case,
Yeah,
because Oren Burks was not good in
yeah,
coverage. The Higbee might be out, so that would bode well. Not having to cover Tyler Higbee and not
yeah,
having needing a linebacker to cover a tight end.
yeah.
But you know,
Yeah, Higbee was out last week against the Vikings, and it didn't matter
yeah.
still.
So
Like,
and he's been limited in practice this week, so
yeah,
we'll see. But I don't think there's any way. And I'm not being biased. I'm not being a homer. I just don't see the Rams beating us in Philly with the
yeah,
weather, and I mean it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be cold.
yeah, yeah. No,
So but we'll
it'll be
see.
tough for the California boy to put up a good passing performance, especially with the hostile crowd out there too. It's gonna be with each round, it's gonna get more hostile. And this will be, I guess. Is there any way at all that the Eagles have a home game in the playoffs? Hey, baby Cap, how's it going? Appreciate you coming through.
Go Birds.
Go Birds! Let's go. I thought he was gonna come up with some expletives because I know you've taught him all the naughty no words as
He
well.
wouldn't. He wouldn't. He wouldn't say no expletives at the tailgate, man. When I was trying, everybody was chanting "asshole." And when Packers fans would walk by, he wouldn't do it.
He's a smart man. Yeah. Give him a couple more years. He'll be doing it. Next time you hit up Philly, I'm sure he'll be shouting with the rest of you guys. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It was great that you guys got to have that experience, and I'm gonna look through. I saw some pictures. I saw him rocking some of the gear that he got over the course of the weekend too.
Oh, he made out like a bandit. He made out like a
Yeah,
bandit. A hat, a beanie, a jacket, gloves, a little squishmallow thing, pillow thing. I mean, he made out like a bandit.
yeah. Christmas,
Oh, a new
Christmas
Saquon
again.
Barkley jersey. Yeah, he
Beautiful.
made out like a bandit.
Love it, man. Love it. But let's get your take on this next one here. This is a game, I was surprised to see the Commanders make it through. This is another one of my predictions that backfired on me. Commanders ended up sneaking through. That was maybe the closest game of the wild card weekend. Overall, kind of an underwhelming wild card weekend, to be honest. There wasn't any like really standout. Like I feel like wild card weekend normally has some of the best matchups and close games and nail biters. I was kind of underwhelmed. It felt like a lot of blowouts across the board. But we got a young rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, potentially the rookie of the year on offense, facing, this juggernaut Lions team that seems unbeatable right now. Who's your take in this game? What are you thinking about the Commanders versus Lions? I think it's going to be a bloodbath, to be honest.
Yeah, the Commanders Buccaneers game was a good game. I did get to watch a good part of that after I got back from the game and got back to the hotel and sat down and watched that game. But Jaden Daniels is Jaden Daniels. I don't think the Bucks should have won that game. I'm glad the Commanders did because here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping somehow, some way, the Commanders find a way to beat the Lions.
Yeah.
And we beat the Rams, and the Commanders got to come to Philly for the NFC Championship game, so we can put them to sleep and shut them up since they're still talking about how they beat Kenny Pickett in Week 15.
Yeah.
That's
And
I pray to newborn infant Jesus that the Commanders somehow win and have to come to Philly to play in the NFC Championship game. That's
yeah,
all I want.
being
I think
able
the
to beat a
Lions are
division
really
rival.
beat up.
Yeah.
The Lions are really beat up on defense. They've got a high-powered offense. I don't think the Commanders can stop them on defense. Obviously, they
Yeah.
gave up quite a 32 points to the Bucks.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lions could hang a 50 burger on them if they really wanted to with the weapons they got on offense.
Yeah.
But I just hope somehow, some way, they find a way to win. And then the Eagles, obviously, if the Eagles hold up their end of the bargain and the NFC Championship game will be in Philadelphia, Washington, and Philly. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't see it happen, but I'm hoping.
Yeah. Honestly, like it's got to be fairly rare to be able to potentially play the conference championship game against a division rival at home. It's kind of felt like to me the whole season like the NFC is going to go through Detroit this year, but Philly was always the other team. I think we talked about the elite teams in the AFC. I think there's three of them over there. The Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs. NFC, I think you could maybe argue that the Eagles and the Lions are the only two elite teams. The Vikings had an elite record, but obviously the talent didn't stack up when it actually mattered. So I'd love to see that too. I mean, I never want to root for a division rival. A lot of people are like, oh, they got a soft spot for the Lions because they never won anything. So they're like, okay, they're due. Let's give this fan base that's been kind of half of the Lions fan base have been wearing bags over their heads for the last 20 years. Like, they've had a couple good seasons in a row, but the last, 20 years of, I mean, even through Barry Sanders' career, like they never really experienced any kind of success. So, I
I
feel
don't think
like
they've ever even been to a Super Bowl.
I like when they won their playoff game last year, like that was the first playoff win in what, 20 years, I think they said. Like it was something
I mean, the
insane.
Commanders just won their first one since 2005. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Like it makes me appreciate. I mean, I just saw a stat I posted on Twitter today that the Vikings now have the most playoff losses of any franchise in
really,
NFL history. 32 playoff losses. I mean, there's
they've
something to
been
be
to a Super Bowl, right?
they've been to four Super Bowls. I think they said, the biggest comp is like the Bills. The Bills made it to what, four straight Super Bowls, lost them
Four
all, which
straight.
is that's probably it's like the best worst run of all time. It's like to be a Super Bowl caliber team 4 years in a row is incredible. Like to be one of the top two teams and to lose them all is heartbreaking. The Vikings, I think in the 70s, but well before I was around, with Fran Tarkenton and stuff, they kind of ran the NFC North back then. But obviously, if you had to look at the NFC North, it's like the
And
Packers
all
have
four,
owned
all
it.
four of those Super Bowl losses were to NFC East teams. Two to the Cowboys, one to the Giants, one to the Redskins.
Yeah, crazy. It's just funny though with Detroit. Like you think they had Barry Sanders, who's considered one of the best running backs of all time, although he only played for a shorter career, and then they had maybe the most talented wide receiver of all time in Megatron, and they had Stafford there. Like Stafford, Stafford played for a long time for Detroit and had no success. Like for me, Stafford was a guy who, if he didn't win that one Super Bowl, like I don't know if I put him in the Hall. I kind of considered him like an Archie Manning, a guy who put up great stats, and never had a winning record in his entire career. Um, I think Stafford kind of got saved by coming over to the Rams and catching, that one championship, when they still had Aaron Donald around. I don't know, like he's probably going to end up as one of the top all-time passers when it's all said and done,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think without a championship, he's just one of those guys who had a really good career, but isn't a Hall of Famer. Whereas now the argument's a lot easier to put him in.
yeah.
And who knows? It'll be interesting to see if that Rams team fizzles out. But yeah, I'd say Lions. I'd say this is the Ravens Bills. I think is the best game of the week. This might be the worst game of the week. Where I know you thought the Texans Chiefs could be a bloodbath in favor of the Chiefs. I think this one's going to be all Lions. I've seen it firsthand. Like they've got a lot of team speed on offense. They have so many offensive weapons.
Yeah.
And I think I had to really watch them to understand it. Like Gibbs is crazy fast. Like he separates from anybody. You have really good elite athletes out there, and he makes them look like like a pro player playing amongst high school kids. Like he just creates distance. So yeah, I think Lions take this one for sure. All right, so let's get into the last topic here, league MVP. I'm actually gonna pull up my poll. I put a poll out like about 3 hours ago, and I told people to comment on who they thought the MVP was. So I gave three options and then another option here. I gave Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and as an ode to you being an Eagles fan, I put Saquon Barkley on there too. And really, he did have an MVP caliber season. It's just we kind of think of it as a quarterback award now. It seems. So I put those three options, and I gave an other option to nobody picked other. Okay, we had 15 votes come in. 73% picked Lamar Jackson as their MVP, which I was kind of surprised by. I'm not gonna lie. Kev, for you, who's your MVP this year if you had to pick?
I picked Saquon just cause, like, just cause.
Yeah,
Obviously, I know like MVP hasn't gone to a non-quarterback since what,
Adrian
Adrian Peterson,
Peterson,
I think.
probably. Yeah,
And I think even then it was I think they gave it to both. I think they gave it to him and somebody. I don't think he won it outright. I think it was like split or something. Um, I just, again, you could flip a coin. I don't care who wins it. It could be Lamar. It could be Josh. It you're not wrong with either one. Um,
yeah,
I have seen the Ravens offense with Lamar, with Huntley, with
yeah,
these other guys that are kind of mobile, and but obviously they're not Lamar
yeah,
Jackson, but their offense can still run. But I mean, Lamar Jackson has had an incredible year. Derrick Henry helped him get over the hump offensively, I think.
yeah,
Because people didn't have to worry about just Lamar Jackson, but
yeah,
he still put up ridiculous numbers. I just think if I had to, I give the edge,
yeah,
slightest edge to Josh Allen because he has nothing
yeah,
other than James Cook. He has nothing on offense. They're not a very good offensive line. I mean, well, who they had that rookie Keon
Keon
Coleman was
Coleman,
their
he
best
was
wide
injured a
receiver.
ton. I had him in fantasy,
Yeah,
like sitting on my bench. He was injured for like half the year, I feel like.
Dawson Knox, Kincaid, like they're not. I mean, they're not. Obviously, they're
Yeah,
young, and Dawson Knox is in his second year. Kincaid was a rookie. I think you give the slight edge to Josh Allen just because of what he did with less. He did more with less,
yeah.
and
That's the argument I'm hearing. Yeah,
I think the cast around Lamar is a bit better.
yeah,
So, but again, I don't like individual awards. I could care less. I didn't care when Embiid won MVP. I just
yeah,
don't care.
yeah.
Um,
When you're not making it and win the championship, it all kind of
yeah,
pales in
like
comparison.
it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Like even I was a little upset when they sat Barkley and he didn't get the rushing
yeah.
record because he would have got the rushing record easy.
Oh, 100%.
Um, but what matters is team awards. Then what matters is that Super Bowl.
Yeah,
So, who cares if they would, oh, I won an MVP. But yeah, but did you win the Super Bowl?
yeah,
Lamar has won what, 3 MVPs or 2 MVPs? Josh has won how many? They haven't sniffed at Super Bowl.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
Saquon's going to win Offensive Player of the Year more than likely. He'll probably win Offensive Player of the Year.
yeah,
He's not going to come. He might get some MVP votes. Because who knows where the Eagles would be without Saquon.
yeah.
But I don't care who wins it. I give the slight edge to Josh Allen. But you could flip a coin and I'd be fine with either.
Yeah, it's what really matters is like the Nickelodeon Kids Awards when they get those kids to vote and they've never watched a football game in their lives, and then you get random people being voted league MVP. But honestly, I'm leaning Lamar myself because I look at the numbers and John Z mentioned in the chat. He's like, there's literally no stat other than rushing touchdowns that Josh Allen was better at than Lamar Jackson, and Lamar had infinitely more rushing yards. Like he rushed the ball better. He passed the ball better. He was more efficient. He had like 120 passer rating, which means obviously he's not missing a lot of reads. I think he led the league in passing yards. He just seemed like incredibly at the top of his game. I think this is Lamar's best offensive season, I think, overall. And he's already won MVP with lesser stats in the past. So, but at the same time, it's kind of like in the NBA, Jokic, how many times can you really give this big man MVP? Eventually, you got to switch it up and put somebody else in there who might not have a chance to do it. This might be the one year that Josh Allen, gets his MVP. You could give it to Lamar almost every year.
Yeah, I
I
mean
guess,
they're gonna be fighting for the MVP.
yeah,
For the next 5 to 10 years probably. They're
yeah,
still young. They're still they're not even in their prime really yet.
yeah.
They're still in their late 20s.
Well, and then you have Joe Burrow too, who put up an incredible year too. Who
Oh
I
yeah.
look at the
You
Bengals
can
and I
you
think,
can make
man,
a case for Burrow because without Burrow, the Bengals would have
yeah,
had a chance in hell
yeah,
to do what they did and have a shot to make the playoffs. Going into the final week of the season. So you can make your case for Joe Burrow too, because I don't.
yeah. He had
You
like
could look at
45
stats
touchdowns,
you
four
can look at
picks. Like,
stats all you want to. It's most
yeah,
valuable to their team.
exactly. And in that regard, I can see some of the people in chat saying he does Lamar does nothing, or sorry, Josh Allen does nothing better than Lamar. But at the same time, when I looked at the moves that the Bills made in this offseason, shedding all this veteran talent from their defense, letting Stephon Diggs go, it looked like they were doing kind of a competitive rebuild where it's like the only guy they want to keep is Josh Allen, and they're going to completely retool the rest of the team around him. It kind of
I
looked
was
like a,
telling I was telling my Bills friends, Gimme and all these other guys, like I
yeah,
just don't see you guys even making the playoffs with all the talent you
yeah,
lost.
oh, 100%.
And Josh Allen willed that team to the playoffs. So
Yeah, definitely. And now you got to think like with I'm assuming the guys they're playing are primarily younger guys because all the veterans seem to be gone from the team at this point. You got to imagine that they can maybe make a splash and add some actual weapons to a team that's already good, already a 13-win team. I think the other thing too, the path for the Bills, like their division, I thought was gonna be one of the stronger divisions in football, and it ended up actually being one of the weaker ones. The Jets never really became that team that could challenge them for the division. Tua's had his concussion issues, and like who knows if this guy's ever gonna be healthy again. And then you get the Patriots in a full rebuild where they really are not trying to win games to the point when they finally do win a game, they fire their head coach immediately after to end the season. Their division games were kind of just a shoe in this year. I can see the arguments both ways. Statistically, I give the edge to Lamar. But at the same time, I feel like if I was like putting down money on this, I think it's more likely going to go to Josh Allen just because he hasn't won it before. People are going to think that he's due, and he does have the slight edge in team record. Either of these guys could also be up for the award again next year. But again, like Kep said, the individual awards don't matter that much. I'm sure Bills fans would give up MVP if it meant that they were going to finally win a Super Bowl. 100%.
I'm
And
sure Josh Allen would too.
absolutely, man. And the only one of my professional teams that I root for that won a Super Bowl in recent memory. I mean, the Jays won a couple when I was a kid. Too young to really appreciate the moment. When the Raptors won, it changed. When your team has experienced championship success, it really changes the way that you watch that sport. Now the Raptors in a rebuild right now. I have no interest in watching them because I know what it's like to be competing for a championship and have the expectation be that you win every game that you go. That you're going to have a good chance at winning. I don't have the same love for watching the Raptors when they're the second worst record in the league. I'm sure that's the case here. Like,
I wanted that year either.
yeah,
Damn, Kawhi Leonard.
hey, you know what? We had it did take maybe 3 or 4 of the top players on Golden State getting injured in the finals for us to do it, but we don't talk about the details. That's just an asterisk. We just we remember the parade and that's about it. But yeah, I think both these guys are definitely deserving. Saquon deserving as well, but probably going to get overshadowed because people love to put quarterbacks head to head because it's easier to compare the stats and the impact. But whoever wins, it will be definitely a deserving candidate. I don't think there's ever really been a dark horse MVP candidate come through where people have been surprised. Like we always know there's a couple names it's going to be one of them. There's like the eyeball test where everybody knows it's coming. And I think this year will be no different. It's going to be one of those two guys for sure. But Kep, I appreciate you sitting down. We talked through all these matchups. We gave our predictions, or at least broke down the matchups. So Kep made a good point when we were in Discord before. I was like, my predictions, I was 3-3 because I actually gave a team for each one who I thought was going to win. Kep told me that he didn't make any predictions except for the Eagles to win the first round. He gave his expert breakdown, but he smartly avoided having a 3-3 prediction record like I did. So don't tail my bets, guys. This is just opinions here. Don't go and put money on what we're saying on this podcast.
Code Murph, underdog, Code Murph.
That's right. Hey, I'll take the bag at this point, boys. I could use a little bit of extra income. But yeah, hopefully we get a chance to do this again over the course of the playoffs. We got obviously less games to talk about as each round goes on, but there's tons of topics. I think I'd love to talk about some of the MVPs, Rookie of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, maybe making that part of it, maybe towards the championship games. But Kev, as always, man. The Eagles lose, you're out. Hey, there we go. Then I got to try and get Cove. I got to get Cove to unpack his boxes faster so I can get some options here. I have had people in my Discord offering to be on the podcast, but I told him you got to have some face cam experience. I asked.
Quality over quantity, Murph. Quality over quantity.
100%, man. I've made the mistake in the past of stocking some panels with people who maybe weren't ready for the moment. But you always know when Kep comes on, we're gonna get quality sports takes. They might be completely unfounded and completely biased and Philadelphia Eagles centric, but he's always gonna give you his 2 cents and explain it as best as he can in a way that you guys can understand. But Kev, as always, man, appreciate your time. Thanks for making yourself available for this. And I'll definitely be hitting you up, towards the championship game to see if the Eagles advance. I'm hoping the Eagles. I'm hoping the Eagles win the whole damn thing now, so I can at least have a podcast co-host here. Because I'm gonna be stuck without you.
I would.